It's Monday, December 3. Good afternoon. I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome to those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips is concerned that Jamaican farmers are being left behind in the government's quest for growth. Speaking at a recent People's National Party PNP meeting in Clarendon, he blasted the Andrew Holness-led administration for not having a plan. We have the details in this report.
The government and opposition agree on one thing. Things are looking up for the Jamaican economy. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips commended the government for continuing the reform program that he points out was started by his administration. He, however, argues that not everyone is reaping the benefits.
I am happy that the debt is going down. However, even as I am happy that there is more growth, the real question is, who is growing and who is being left behind?
The PNP leader is particularly concerned about developments in the agriculture sector. He says a number of factories are closing, with cane and cocoa farmers most affected.
There are thousands of Jamaicans being left behind in the current environment of growth. In the south part of the parish, the sugar workers, cane farmers, the cocoa farmers of northern Clarendon, the northern hills of Clarendon, are also finding themselves left behind. Fermenters are being closed and the future of cocoa is uncertain. And again, no plan.
No plan too, he further argues, for the ailing coffee industry.
The coffee farmers in the hills of St. Andrew and elsewhere are now leaving their berries to rot on the trees. Prices which were at record highs during the People's National Party administration are now at record lows, and we cannot hear, in the middle of this story about prosperity, we cannot hear a sound plan as to the future of agriculture in cocoa and in coffee.
The agriculture and the fisheries sector grew by 0.7% in the last quarter. Kimone Witter, TVJ News.
Questions are being raised about the political will of governments globally to tackling issues affecting children. The matter was raised at a conference for the prevention of child abuse and neglect in Montego Bay, St. James.
With the recent spate of children being murdered, there are renewed concerns about whether enough is being done to protect the country's youth. But officials from the International Society for Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect say the issues are not unique to Jamaica. They note that another common problem worldwide is the resource constraints in stemming child abuse and neglect.
Sometimes the priorities of the governments, the priorities of the politicians are very different. Children can't vote. They don't vote, they don't have the voting rights, and that's why their needs are not addressed to the extent they should have been.
Children's advocate Dan Gordon Harrison says while progress has been made, there's more work to be done.
We have severe issues with violence against children, all forms of violence, ranging from corporal punishment, which really is violence, to children being murdered, children being violently sexually abused, children being emotionally scarred. We also have children who have mental health issues. We have children who have disabilities, who are preyed upon deliberately by persons who do not mean them well.
According to the International Society for Prevention of Child Abuse and Neglect, globally at least 5 children die every day because of child abuse. Mrs. Gordon Harrison says locally a systematic way of processing child deaths need to be established.
How streamlined are our systems and our investigation processes to deal with international best practice as to how to treat child deaths? What does the data look like? What are we doing in terms of those who are accused of and convicted of perpetrating these crimes against children?
Janella Precious, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, is again criticizing parents for the dangerous practice of allowing their children to sell on the streets. The agency says it's cause for concern as a lot can happen while minors are hustling on the streets. The officials were speaking at a function in Milk River, Clarendon.
Miss, you can buy one chocolate from me, you can buy one ticky from me.
Children hustling, begging or selling items on the streets. A long-standing issue which does not seem to be going away. It's why the Child Protection and Family Services agencies again urging parents not to expose their children to the dangers of hustling on the streets.
Tired for see pitting them in a mere penton, school time. I said, hey, me used to buy from them one time, but now buy from them again now. Because if I buy from them, I encourage the behavior.
Speaking at the Milk River Primary School Symposium recently, manager of the St. Augustine Place of Safety, Michael Coward, cautioned that these child hustlers are at risk of getting molested or kidnapped.
You see the big attitude that you have, that you continue to instill in your child, can cause serious problem down the road. Easily enough time I can see where me at the KFC line, I go pick up some KFC and they come there. A pervert, anybody can grab a child in a car. We don't know that. So we don't care.
A reminder as well that parents are responsible for seeing to the needs of their children.
No child is supposed to be hustling anything for the family or for them little brother or for them little sister. Is you must go hustle it, is you bring them here. They are your responsibility. They are not supposed to be fending for themselves. We mustn't see them in Maypen in Bargain Village begging something or selling one little chocolate. You're tired to see them.
The responsibility that the child have is that when you provide the education, them go take the education.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And with the Christmas season now upon us, manager at the St. Augustine Place of Safety, Michael Coward, is warning parents to be mindful of who they allow their children to accept gifts from. He argues that not all persons are genuine and their generosity may be a mask for sexual grooming.
There's a lot of persons who want to trust and say, no man, this man a nice man, sing give me daughter one pair of shoes to go back to school, sing give me lunch money for your date. It is sometimes, if you know what be, it's sexual grooming. Why don't you open up a big mouth and say, sir, yeah, give me pity all of these things. You have anything I need? Me can wash some clothes feet, please? Can I do something to get all of that, please? Because the fact that him have to give means that you don't have it. But you have 2 hands and you have 2 foot. Go work for it because it's not free.
We have to teach them to satisfy. Right, parents? But if we can't satisfy, they're not going to learn to satisfy. So if everything we see somebody with, we want it and we're begging it, we're going to teach them that when they see things, they must want it and beg it too.
Parents were also warned to listen out for inappropriate compliments.
Get them comfortable. It's called grooming. And then when they are comfortable with them and they feel like this person care about them and then feel like this person is nice to them, then they start introducing sex to them. And by this time, the child probably feels like it's okay because this is an adult and this is somebody who cares about me and this is somebody who loves me and this is somebody who tells me things that my mother not telling me.
Mere hours after officially opening to the motoring public, a car crashed along Chesterfield Drive in Seaview Gardens late last night. The driver escaped without injury. It's believed he was speeding. Meanwhile, despite a few hiccups, motorists welcome the convenience of having the new road.
Coming from Spanish Town side.
Okay, how long it would you normally take you to reach here?
It take me a good while, man. So the road is a good look, you know? A good look.
So you like it so far?
Yeah, man, I like it so far, man.
Any improvement?
Yeah, man, because a good road I have to drive, man, so I appreciate it, man, for real, man.
Right.
It's less of my time I will eat now. Because now I'm have to go all the way around.
The traffic police say motorists can continue using the other routes.
This Chesterfield Road has present additional option for the motoring public to utilize. We know that several vehicular traffic is still using the Penn Road Bay Farm, and we are encouraging them to do so.
There were long lines at a Yalas gas station in St. Thomas over the weekend. Most of the motorists we spoke with were from Albion in the parish. The lone gas station there apparently ran out of fuel.
We have to run come Yalas come and buy gas, because you know, might be a gas expensive that. You see me? So that cause a pile up right now.
Yes, sir. We have to buy in a back and line up the tar rasta. One gas station around the highway. One, the next one.
The ratings for this year's X Factor final went up compared with last year, overnight ratings show. An average of 5.3 million people tuned in to watch Dalton Harris beat Anthony Russell and Scarlett Lee on Sunday. It was a far cry from the 17 million who watched Matt Cardle win in 2010 when the show was at its peak. But it was an improvement on last year's overnight figure of 5 million when Rank Sue triumphed. The viewing figures do not include those who watched on +1. Meanwhile, in his first interview since his win last night, Dalton Harris says he's still in disbelief. Congratulations, Dalton. Days after the UN sounded the alarm on the unprecedented levels of greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere, the world is gathering to define how the 2015 Paris Agreement will be implemented and moved forward. Under the agreement, all countries have committed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to limit the global average rise in temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius and as close as possible to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We have more from the CNN.
Now we're talking about 3.2. That's frightening. What does that mean?
That's not a little, is it?
That's not.
Because we're talking Celsius. It does sort of sound like it's not a lot. Go to 2 to 3, but it's kind of like your body temperature. If your body temperature goes up a degree or 2 Celsius, something's really wrong. Same with the planet. I'll give you a good example. This past summer in Europe, we had a devastating heat wave. We had very bad droughts. We had temperatures in the 30s, upper 30s, all the way up to the Arctic Circle. It was the hottest month, August was, of this year that Europe had ever experienced. That was 2.4 degrees warmer than average. This is, we're talking 3.2, and that's the baseline. That's where we start in 2100. Heat waves would be on top of that. So you're talking 4 or 5 degrees, 2 to 3 times worse, and the impacts are exponentially worse. And it's not just heat waves, it's droughts, it's sea level rise. You're talking about potentially millions of people living on the coast in places like Shanghai, Sydney, Tokyo. So all these places that are on the coast are going to see sea level rise not measured in centimeters, but by meters.
So the Paris aims were for emissions globally to peak in 2020. This report says they're not going to not peak in 2020. They won't get to peak in 2030.
That's correct. So, and that's based on what we're putting out. All the countries fed their data to the United Nations, and the United Nations calculated and saw how that was going to stack up to where we need to be to stay under, ideally, the 1.5 and the 2 degree thresholds that the Paris Climate Agreement and the IPCC set forth in the report that we got last month.
We go down to news in sports. West Indies batsman Chris Gayle has been awarded £173,000 after winning a defamation case against Australian publisher Fairfax Media. They reported allegations that Gayle exposed himself to a female massage therapist. A jury in Sydney in October 2017 ruled the claims were not true and that their publication by Fairfax Media was motivated by malice. Gayle's legal team argued that Fairfax journalists wanted to destroy the cricketer. Supreme Court Justice Lucy McCallum made the award. She said in her decision that the defamation, quote, went to the heart of Mr. Gayle's professional life as a respected batsman, end quote. Now, during the case's 6-day trial, massage therapist Leanne Russell said Gayle had partially exposed himself to her in a dressing room in 2015, leaving her very upset. Fellow cricketer Dwayne Smith, who was also in the dressing room, supported Gayle's version of the events. And that wraps up the Midday News. I am Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.